Welcome, everybody. Now, I'm sure anybody running a small business over the last kind of 18 months has kind of realised that once the pandemic hit, business really was about controlling the controllables, as sort of sports people are often sort of want to say. And I think in reality, that has kind of meant the cost base for a lot of small businesses. Now, it took many businesses, I think, quite a time to kind of work out new ways of generating revenue. So they quite rightly focus on those costs at the beginning of the kind of whole pandemic. To talk through some of these challenges, I'm really pleased to be joined by a fabulous little kind of business based down in Bournemouth, and its founders, Jamie White and Josh Kay. Their business is called Syrup Broom, and it does fabricated designs, and it's actually got a worldwide client base. So quite a really interesting business. Guys, thank you very much for joining us. Jamie, perhaps to you first. When you fully realised the impact of the pandemic, sort of back at the beginning of 2020, what was the first thing you did?
Straight away, I mean, obviously, it was a crisis for us and a crisis for the world, you know. So a lot of our work sort of just paused overnight, and we had to really think, right, we just scaled the business up quite a lot. So we got massive overheads compared to what we did before, and we had to maintain that and find ways of reducing our overheads as quickly as we could. We managed to keep our staff members employed throughout the whole pandemic, which was very good for them and for us, but not an easy thing. But that meant that we looked at things like our bills, what was coming in, going out, trying to really tighten up on any sort of wasted money that you do when you're in full swing of running a business and you've got all the time, you've got no time. You know, that changed for us. So that's really what we started to do.
And kind of, Josh, that kind of sort of neatly segues into kind of, I guess, the second half of this sort of question is, I mean, as Jamie was saying there, you know, you have scaled up quite a bit in the last sort of couple of years, which is great because clearly the business is growing. But how much did you focus on previously on the sort of costs of kind of doing business?
Initially, when we started out very early, it was a very key subject, and we would always look and get all those bills and be like, oh, can we afford this? Can we afford that? As we scaled, as Jay said, the bills got bigger, the outgoings got more, the amount of expenditure was every day, and you kind of do lose track on that. So it did really get to a point where we were just, that problem, let's pay that, let's get that, let's do that. We haven't got time to look at bills, we haven't got time to look at our business strategy, we haven't got time. It's all happening very fast. So when the first lockdown came, like Jay said, it gave us time to just think, hang on a second, the money's paused coming in. We need to work out how we can pause the money going out, because the bills are still the same, the rent's still the same, all these things, they don't stop.
Yeah.
But the workflow does. Our job is very physical, and the world wasn't very physical for a long time. So that's kind of where we started to look at that saving and change our mind into kind of actually even things like coffees. We noticed how much we spent on coffee. We went and found a coffee machine we worked out the cost, and I worked out how much we could save by blah, blah, blah. So that kind of filtered down to the everyday stuff. And then it got to the point where we were like, there's some bills here. Estimated bills are an interesting way of doing it. And definitely when you are in that situation where you haven't got a grip on how much is coming in, you definitely need to know, right, we are actually wanting to just pay for what we are using, because our machines aren't running, you know. The money that we normally spend on electricity isn't the same as it was 2 months ago, you know, so as in before the lockdown. So these are the things that we definitely considered and started to look into.
So when you did really begin to break down costs, and, you know, fascinatingly, you know, you got to sort of granular as things like the cost of coffee. But when you looked at, you know, more important parts of the business like energy costs, were you surprised how much they were, for example?
Totally. The whole estimated thing and what we spent was a key feature in us going, hang on a second, like how is this being judged? How are we paying this? We did get a large energy bill, and before the pandemic we had just bought some electric cars. So that was then more of a time than ever to go, actually, we need to see now, we don't have fuel costs anymore, we have electrical costs. So we need to see how much we're spending and how much we are using. And it did make a big difference, because we could then feel like we weren't just paying random amounts, because when you've got a lot of time in your hands, you really look into those things. So it was one of those things that was quite key going forward, especially as our fuel bill then changed into our electricity bills as well. So
that seems a good point to bring a spokesperson in for Smart Energy GB. So welcome, Fleur Lawton. Thank you for joining us. And picking up on the points the guys were making there, how can small businesses manage their energy costs in a more efficient way?
I mean, it's really interesting, isn't it, hearing Josh and Jamie talk about sort of that interest that they had to take in the bills and actually, looking at them and understanding them. And that's one of the big challenges, I think, with costs for a business, is actually trying to work out what's coming in, what isn't. Now, around energy costs, what we want to do is to make those more visible, make it simpler for people to understand and to take action then if they need to. And one of the simple things you can do as a business is to get a smart meter installed to do that.
And let's kind of start with a kind of very simple question, perhaps for people who may not know, Fleur. What is a smart meter and how do they work?
So smart meters are digital gas and electricity meters, and they're being installed to businesses and homes across Great Britain at the minute, and they're replacing our traditional meters. They measure the gas and electricity you're using and how much it's costing you. And then they use a smart, secure network to automatically and wirelessly send your meter readings to your energy supplier. And it's that data, that information, which is the really smart thing about them.
And again, another sort of simple question, but I think is kind of quite important, really. What would you say the benefits of smart meters are to small businesses?
I mean, there's a few key benefits here for businesses, and Josh referred to one earlier. Basically, because smart meters automatically send your meter readings to your energy supplier, it means that you get an accurate bill. So you don't get an estimate. You only pay for the energy that you use, and it really helps you to budget, know how much you need to spend on your energy. They can also give you more control over your energy spend. So by making your energy more visible, when you get a smart meter fitted, you might get, for example, a little screen where you can see how you're using your energy, or you might be accessing it via the web as well. And having that and being able to look at that and think, well, actually, what is costing me? What am I spending on? Why is there a big bill coming in here? What is that? And sort of drilling down into that information can really help you. It can help make your energy more visible and help give you control over those costs too.
Lovely. Now, just turning finally back to Jamie and Josh at Syrup Room. So going forward, guys, do you feel the business is in a better shape now you've got a clearer handle on some of the costs?
It's expanded what we do, in the sense of, right, we need to, if we have a 3D printer, if that's running, is it sustainable to run that overnight on the low, all these things where we can look into it. In the summer, we've got an air conditioning unit, which is the most 1 kilowatt in, 1 kilowatt out energy wise, blah, blah, blah. But we could then see also, actually, it's really expensive to run. So it's good, but let's not run it all the time, and it just breaks these things down for you and just gives you a handle on how to invest in your future business. And even to the sense of, one day, we would love to have solar panels that charge the cars and be fully circular. But until that point, while we get the energy from the grid, it is great to see what we're using, when we're using it, and how we're using it. So it's brilliant.
Excellent. Well, listen, thank you to all three of you as my guests today. And if you want more information about smart meters for your small business, please go to smartenergygb.org. From me, thank you very much for watching.